Hello and welcome to another Camera Jabber video. Today I'm speaking to Matt Barker from MPB. Hi Matt, how are you?
I'm very well, Angela, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now you've launched an interesting campaign about the Hall of Fame for photography and video kit. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, for sure. Yes, we launched the Hall of Fame on the 30th of June. So that's been live now for a couple of weeks for voting. Hall of Fame is for us, it's about celebrating kit and having a really positive moment for the industry. We've had a really interesting last week or two with some really cool new releases coming to market, and we go through these kind of quite key moments. I think every 3 or 4 years when you look back in kind of the history of kit. And whilst I'm incredibly excited about what we've seen the last week or two from Canon, I think equally we've as we've talked about before, there is, when it comes to kit, it has such longevity that from my point of view and from MPB's point of view deserves a kind of moment of pause and celebration and discussion. So that for us is what the Hall of Fame is. It's live online now. You can visit photo and video kit halloffame.com. There's also a link from the top bar of mpb.com if you go there, which you can follow through. And the idea really is that we've come up with a series of different categories, and within those categories you can vote for what you believe should be the winning piece of kit within each one. So there's 5 categories, and we're really encouraging our customers, but wider than that, everyone who's interested in photography, videography, to get online and have a look at what's in there and cast their votes on it. Hopefully people will find some really interesting stuff in the shortlist for them to engage with and tell us their thoughts, really. So there's 5 categories online. It's not about kind of getting caught in the nuances necessarily or the details for us. I think it's just how people feel about stuff and really trying to kind of capture that passion that people have for kit, or that meaning that it might have had for them individually in terms of their kind of creative journey, reflecting on bits of kit, both current and from the past as well.
And how long is the voting period?
The voting, as I say, it's been open for a couple of weeks now, and it's running through till the 11th of August, I believe. So
okay.
All in all, about 6 weeks. We've had huge engagement so far. Thousands and thousands of votes have been cast already, but we would encourage that to continue. And we've been really kind of overwhelmed in terms of kind of the engagement that it has had so far. So we should see, I think by the time it's all run through to the 11th, there will be a significant number of votes that have been cast, such that we should have a very clear set of.
And has any one category been particularly popular for votes?
You know what, I thought that might be the case when it went up, actually. We've got the categories, just to go through them. So we've got classic, which is your, as you might expect, kind of, as we're referring to it, the gold standard of photo and video kits, those kind of standout classics that have very much stood the test of time. We've got the game changer category, which is for us kind of picking out more, for example, there's a drone in there and things like that, things that have changed kind of how people shoot and how people create content. There's road tested as well, which for us is more your kind of workhorse stuff, and again, products that have gone and lasted a number of years, and people have been kind of able to continually get shots out of for a long period of time. And the trendsetter category, which is more your kind of not so much stylistic side of things, but there are obviously products that have been launched which have very much set a trend over time. And on the iconic side of things, which is the last category in there, that's your real kind of like Leicas, Mamias, and things of that nature that have really stood out, of icons over time. And also the 5D Mark I is in there as well, which from our point of view is very much an icon with the way that the 5 series has developed over time for Canon. So at the moment, in terms of how people are voting, we're seeing most people vote across all of those categories and engage fully across the breadth of it, which for us I think is really exciting in terms of how people are engaging with the online voting and kind of taking their time to actually dig in and see what's there. So So yeah, at the moment, it's quite fascinating. We've got a scoreboard running that's live and linked to that, so we can see what's going on. I can't reveal anything at the moment. I can say for sure, genuinely, that we're seeing a very even level of engagement across all the categories. And there's a couple of surprise, to me, in my opinion, a couple of surprise leaders in there at the moment. So yeah, I would encourage people to take, it doesn't take long, but 5-10 minutes of your time just to browse those categories online and get involved, and do cast a vote in each one of them, really.
Okay, so basically you just pick your winner for each of the 5 categories.
Yeah, you just click in, you'll go through and you'll see the shortlist. So in each of the categories, there are 5 products shortlisted, and you just have to hit select and tell us what country you're voting from. So there's no data capture. There is a voluntary data capture that follows if you want to sign up to our mailing list, but actually you don't have to provide any details to vote there. So it's genuinely, from our point of view, there to gather people's points of views, not to capture data, which I think is an important point.
I think it's a really interesting campaign because as much as we talk about photography being all about the light and the moment and the composition, I think photographers really connect with their cameras in a way that you don't with other pieces of tech. You sit and watch the TV and that's fine, and you use your smartphone and you call people and make texts and it just kind of does what it does. But photographers really kind of appreciate what their camera allows them to do, and they get to know it and all the settings, its control layout, and it becomes a part of you and how you capture your image. So I think, people really kind of appreciate and get to know their photographic kit in a way that you don't with other bits of technology.
I completely agree. I think kit is really powerful. That's something that we talk about a lot internally, and as you say, that's the message that I want to get across, as I've said already. It's the power of that kit, and it's everything that you've said there in terms of kit is an enabler of creativity, and that's the message from us, really.
Yeah, as I say, I think it's a really interesting campaign, and for me, the road tested category really kind of epitomizes the whole thing, because the products in that category are those that have really stood the test of time, the ones that the pros and enthusiast photographers and videographers can go out and use, and they know they'll get good results every time. They're really solid pieces of kit that have really served people well. So I thought it might be really interesting to have a bit of a chat about the 5 products in that category, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So if I just start by reading out the list of products that are in that category, we've got the Nikon D810, the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II, the Canon EF 24-70 2.8L USM, the Nikon SB900 Speedlight, and the Fujifilm XT2. Now that's a really interesting mix, and I just wondered how you went about putting those products together into that category.
Yeah, sure. So it is quite an interesting mix, as you say. We've got some bodies in there, we've got a flash gun in there, we've got a lens in there as well. Overall, as I said earlier, so there's 25 products essentially on the short list across 5 categories. We polled external kind of experts and photographers and got some opinions there, and we also had a lot of internal working groups where we sat around and debated each of these categories around the products that should land into them. And so we took external views, internal views. We've got I'm at our warehouse in Brighton again today, where I was last time that we spoke, where almost every single person here is a photographer or videographer of one type or another. So we've taken the internal conversation and the external conversation to arrive at the shortlist that we've got, and obviously mixed within there as well, there are different kit for different purposes as well. So we've got full frame mixed in with cropped, we've got high frame rate mixed in with low frame rate. We didn't want to, we're not trying to lead the view here, and what we're really trying to do is kind of, through those first preliminary conversations, just uncover what we feel is, covers that breadth, covers that variety, but also really does make sure that it brings to the surface things that we've seen, we've heard, and we've felt from others were in this particular category that we're talking about here, the real road tested stuff, stuff that has been a real workhorse for people.
Yeah, and I think even if you're not a Canon user, you can still appreciate what a lens like the 24 to 70 2.8 allows a
Yeah,
photographer
for
to
sure, and it's
do.
difficult, isn't it? Because ultimately, I think we live in an industry and work in an industry where sort of brand advocacy is obviously a big thing, you know, and we're not here to say whether the Nikon 2470 or the Canon 2470 is kind of at debate here, but it's that kit, not just for you personally, but for how you consider it would have been for others too, in terms of what you feel is kind of that real road tested stuff. You know, from my point of view, you know, the reason the Canon 2470 deserves a place in there is, you know, it, like a number, I suppose, of kind of world-class Canon lenses, it was in production for such a long time, you know, and Canon were, well, I think it's fair to say slightly ahead of the game versus Nikon when it came to lenses at that point when that was launched. You know, that was 2002. It was a lens that many people bought in the sort of early 2000s and is often still living in people's kit bags. And I think that's just on the X Mark II, the D810 and the XT2. And it's very difficult to pick out one camera that's going to do everything for everyone. You know, I think the D810 was a fantastic camera of its time, and it kept people with Nikon and kept them with the brand. There were other times I can remember in the past where you saw these big jumps of people switching Canon to Nikon and back again. One or other of them genuinely got a better product out into market. I think in the last few years we've seen less of that, and it's been much harder to choose between cameras. You know, why would you buy a 1DX Mark II over a D810? Primarily, probably just because you need the frame rate, and that's the reason there that the D810 does only do sort of five frames a second, I think. So, so yeah, it depends on you. It depends on what you need. But they're all, you know, I think the thing with this category, including the SB900, is like they're all really, really solid bits of kit, you know, and really they're bits of kit that you can depend on and shoot for years and years and years and years and years on. And I think what we're seeing, you know, in this category is that representation of that, and you know, at a more personal level, then it's really a question of kind of what for you do you need your workhorse to be? You know, is it 2470 a workhorse for you? Because for many people it is, or is it a camera that can just, you know, you can go out in the rain and shoot 14 frames a second all day long, and that's what you need, and it is different for everyone.
So as with the other categories, you want people to vote for their favourite of the road-tested products. Which one gets your vote, though?
For me personally, I think I went with the 2470 Canon because for me, I've, you know, I guess going back, you know, in all the time that I've been running MPB as well, I think I've always come back to kind of some of those early Canon L series lenses, and it's still something that I think is kind of a constant, if you like, and that's been there for all of these years and since the very beginning of this company. Just grab one here. It's on a 1DX Mark II, but I think I just love the fact that, you know, there are still thousands and thousands and thousands of copies of this lens going around. Many of them, you know, never been serviced, never been sorted out, and they just work. You very rarely see them go wrong. I think 2070s on the full frame anyway is like the perfect range, you know, f2.8 throughout the range. And I'm kind of someone that's always just kind of more into lenses than bodies. It's just more my thing. They're just amazing products, and yeah. So I think optically, it was a fantastic lens. You know, the Mark II. You know, they needed to release it again. It was an Olympic year release, and they know that people are changing kit. And I think there's always a commercial decision to agree behind why things get changed. And I think you know, it's hard to find a lens in this range that's any better than this, really, in my opinion. And I think they're, you know, in the secondhand market today as well, they're incredibly good value. So, and if it was kind of you only want to own one lens, for me it would be this one. So that's certainly my choice, but that's not to say that there aren't some other sort of worthy in this category. And I think we'll see when the voting. What about from your point of view?
Well, you make a really persuasive argument for the lens, and I was tempted to go that way myself, because I do actually have that lens. I bought it in the early 2000s, as you said, everybody else did. And it was, at the time, a real workhorse lens for me, and I used it day in, day out, and it performed. It always gave me the results I was expecting. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to be able to use the Mark II version. And yes, you know, if I pixel peep, I can see a bit more detail, but actually what I need from a day-to-day lens is exactly what that lens does. So, you know, I see no reason, I've never seen a reason to upgrade it, and it's still a really useful optic when I need it. As you've gone for that, I feel I should probably go for something else. And I'm very tempted to go for the Canon EOS 1DX Mark II, because, you know, it's just a bulletproof camera. It's really dependable. I know there are many, many pros who've been using it for years and would swear by it, and it gets them out of all sorts of trouble, and it helps them, you know, earn their living. So fantastic lens, sorry, fantastic camera, really excellent, solid performer. And I once, I had a review sample one time that I was using, and I was at a festival, and it was chucking it down with rain, and I was at the front in the photographer's pit, and I was near the stage, and I was just under the lip of the cover over the stage as it really hammered down. I think the wind blew and a load of water came shooting off the roof and just drenched me and the camera. And I thought at the time, God, I'm in so much trouble. But actually, you know, I just kind of gave it a bit of a shake. All the water came off. I gave the front element a bit of a wipe, and it just carried on, you know. And you know, it's like at a festival in rainy conditions. So it ended up, you know, it got mud on it and all sorts, but you just wiped it off, and it just carried on. And I know that's the sort of treatment that that camera gets on a regular basis. Now, there's probably lots of pros who are thinking about going for the 1DX Mark III, but actually the Mark II, you know, really delivers what they need at the moment. And, you know, it's going to be a really tough decision for them as to whether they need to upgrade. I think many will probably continue with what they've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said, you know, what you were saying just now about not zooming into images 100%. I think, you know, I think if you're stood there in the rain and you're shooting and you're battling the elements, like that's not the intention, is it really? It's just to capture what was happening in that moment and do it in a fantastic way, but not to be pixel peeping and kind of like thinking about every last detail. And I think that, to me, just to come back to kind of the bigger point here, is exactly the essence of what we're doing with the game frame. Really, it's, you know, it's I think we can all agree, with the exception of some of the video capabilities and what's been going on this week, especially with what Canon have done, that, you know, and there is still technological innovation going on in that sense, and I think that's brilliant, don't get me wrong. But I think we're definitely at a point with kit where we're kind of past the kind of, you know, lens charts, is it a 98 or a 97? There's so much incredible kit out there. And you know, it's time to kind of zoom out a little bit in that sense, you know, kind of stand back, look at your photography and think about that. Think about, you know, it was raining, you were there and you were in that moment, and that captured the image. Or was there a bit of, you know, a bit too much noise, or was there a bit too much of this or a bit too much of that?
Yeah.
Did it enable you to do what you wanted to do, and were you happy with the results? And did it, you know, did you kind of connect with the kit as well? Because I think there is a real connection there that can come from that joy of capturing those moments together, if you like. So yeah, I think that's a really brilliant way of explaining it. And I think, yeah, like I say, it very much captures what we're trying to do, and hopefully people will enjoy that. You know, you know, we don't write, when we blog here and we write content and things like that, you won't very often see us doing, you know, spec table versus spec table, because that's kind of not what MPB is about. It's very much about the content and what this kit enables people to do, and a celebration of the technology itself, because this is, you know, this is an industry that produces some incredibly unique, incredibly robust, and incredibly sophisticated products that are all very worth celebrating and all very personal. So yeah, that's brilliant. So apparently we're both with the Canon camp there, I think.
Well, I'm going to make a pitch now for the Fujifilm XT2, because I know a lot of people with that camera, and they absolutely love it. And I think it's a great camera as well. But it was their first serious camera, or it was their first serious mirrorless camera. And it's enabled them to really engage with photography, to understand photography in a new way, and really enjoy photography. And I think that's the most important thing about a camera, to really get you into photography and get you connected with the images that you create. So yeah, I think you're probably going to see a lot of votes for the XT2.
Yeah, I think it's quite a tight for this one. So
yeah, interesting.
A lot of votes going across the board. So yeah, I would agree. Like I say, I think I absolutely appreciate the look, feel and beauty of the Fuji. I just haven't really used them much, but I think internally at MPB, I would say Fuji is probably the most popular brand. So I think that speaks volumes for what they're doing. And yeah, and certainly, you know, as you say, lots of people I think have been switched on to photography through Fuji's at a time where Canon and Nikon were producing fairly, you know what you're going to get with a Canon and a Nikon. And I think Fuji took a departure from that, and the simplicity of the dials and just being able to set shutter speed and aperture, which is what photography is really, and is a great way to learn as well. And something that was maybe only possible if you were using, rangefinders, things like that, which are quite, on the other hand, very difficult way to get into photography in lots of ways as well.
Okay, so when are we actually going to hear the final results and what's going into the Hall of Fame?
So I think the plan is to announce them on August the 19th. So we will be announcing that on that date, TBC exactly how that will be done.
Right.
And the plan really is to build on this. This is the first year that we've done this. So we will announce the results on the 19th. We will, depending upon what we're able to do, there were some more in-person events planned, right, both the US and the UK, that we think obviously at this point is not something that we're able to do for this year. But that doesn't change the fact that this is very much something that we want to take forward and continue to run in future years as well. And the idea is to, this year is the beginning of it. We want to sort of build on it and make it a bigger thing for the industry as we proceed forward. So yeah, really excited and genuinely quite blown away at the moment by the amount of engagement that we're getting. So that's great, and means that it's something that we will very much take forward to future years. And hopefully 2021 will be a year where we can then take it offline and start to run some of the events that we had planned, which was both events around exhibiting people's work, but also events where people can get hands-on with the kit, which was something that we'd started to do just before lockdown in terms of running events. People can come free of charge and go away and shoot with some of this kit. So yeah, lots of plans around it. Voting closes on the 11th. Voting winners announced on the 19th.
Well, I think that's really exciting. It's an exciting prospect. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing what the winners are, the products that are going to go into the Hall of Fame this year. But I think it's going to be really interesting in a few years' time to look back and see which products are still in there and, which have come and gone, which products have been superseded by new great products. And, I think it's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very much about inducting this year's kit, and we'll be awarding plaques to manufacturers as well, and really making a lot of noise around this, so that the manufacturers get involved as well, and aren't just focusing on the kit they're releasing today, but are also remembering some of the kit that they put out for all those years past, which so many photographers and videographers are still continuing to use.
So thanks for talking to me today, Matt. I'll add a link so that people can see where to go and vote. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what actually goes into the Hall of Fame.
Bye-bye.